Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever in the world you may be joining us from today. My name is Francesco Del Carpio, and I am the CFL York Operations Coordinator. I would like to officially open the fourth session of our VR XR Training and Education, Knowledge and Experience Sharing Speaker Series, presented in collaboration with the DexR Lab at York University with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and recognize that many Indigenous nations have longstanding relationships with the territory upon which our campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. The area is known as Takaranto and has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and that the territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. As this is an online event and our participants may be joining from various locations, I strongly encourage you to learn about the traditional land upon which you are located. With this, I welcome our moderator, our speaker, and our participants from around the world. Welcome to our webinar. Without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator, Dr. Ahmad Mohammadi. Dr. Ahmad Mohammadi is a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Civil Engineering at York University in Toronto, Ontario, where he received his PhD in transportation engineering. His research focuses on applications of virtual reality in transportation safety, traffic conflict analysis, and traffic microsimulation modeling. Ahmad is the coordinator of Disaster and Emergency Extended Virtual Reality, or DexR, laboratory at York University. He has recently collaborated with public partners such as York Regional Police and the Ontario Good Roads Association, and with private sector companies such as Og Signal Limited to work on the development of a virtual reality prototype of an advanced collision warning system to protect police officers in high-speed highways. The 12th Annual Joint Site Student Presentation Competition in 2020 in Toronto recognized Ahmad's research by giving him the first place award. His research contributes to improving transportation safety and efficiency. His collaboration with both public and private sectors demonstrates his ability to use his theoretical training and formal studies to develop practical real-world solutions. Dr. Ahmad, thank you very much for moderating today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the our June, basically speaker sessions about the VR and XR based training and education. Again, thank you for joining us today. My name is Ahmad and I will moderate today's sessions, and I will pass questions, keep time, and ensure that everyone has a chance to participate. I'm also excited to moderate the discussion today, and we have a fantastic expert who share his experience with us. The main presentation would be around 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will hold a question and answer session afterward. So please feel free to ask your questions. You can write your questions in the chat, or you can just ask directly. Then we will give the mic to you. Then you can just directly talk to us and ask your questions. So now it's time to introduce our speakers, which for the today, who is Evan Sitler. He's the co-founder of XpertVR company, a company based in Toronto. And Evan works to ensure the future of technology positively impacts education. Evan sees a future where the Web3 will bring open access education to everyone in the world, allowing everyone to find their passion, master the skills required to follow it, and verify those skills for anyone to see, ultimately leading to lifelong learners passionate about what they do. Outside of the work, Evan is a huge nerd, always up to date on anything Marvel or Star Wars, is big into VR gaming and can't get enough of the NFT and crypto community. So without further ado, it's time to pass the discussion over the speaker. Evan, here you are.
Fantastic, thank you. And I was just having some internet issues, so hopefully they're fine now. But if I cut out, please just let me know, and I will can rewind. But yeah, thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad. Thank you, Francisco and Ali, for inviting me on here. Just to let you know, I usually have my hair up and not wearing a tie-dye shirt, but we're at the end of our team's hackathon this week, so we're having a little party get together. So I'm just jumping on before that, so that's why the hair is down and everything. But I will share my screen and we'll get into the presentation here. All right, just give me a thumbs up if everything's sharing properly. Perfect. All right. Well, yeah, thank you again for having me. This presentation, basically, yeah, making the metaverse an impactful piece of your education and just how it's being used in the education space now and where we see it going in the future. But also happy to talk about really any topic around VR, XR, education, or as Ahmed said, anything around Marvel, Star Wars, those sorts of things as well. I'll introduce myself in a slide here, but there's three main takeaways that I like to highlight in this presentation. Number one, why is VR an important e-learning tool? Number two, what types of VR are there? And number three, what's coming to VR education, or what's coming to of universities and colleges right across Canada. They get together in the Canadian chapter, and then we're connected to a global network that are pushing immersive learning forward. And then lastly, outside of anything professional related, I do play a lot of VR games. I kind of live, eat, and breathe VR. So Population One is basically Fortnite for virtual reality. And my team won the Community Cup just over a year ago. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything in the VR space. And you might be wondering, who is XpertVR? Just so to give some background, basically we're a company that envisions a collaborative future where education is accessible, engaging, and impactful for all. This is our amazing team here that I get to work with on a daily basis. And you can see some of the companies and organizations that we've worked with. We've done some research projects with York University, as well as both other universities in Toronto, and starting to go right across Canada, working with the RCMP, the National Research Council, and others. And to give you an idea of how the company is made up, we've got 6 people on the business side of things and 8 people on the development side of things. So I'm sure a lot of you here know about VR, but just in case there's some people that don't know completely the difference between some of these acronyms, I like to go over this. So very quickly, virtual reality is when you're completely locked into a virtual world. Everything you see, hear, touch, and feel is virtual. Whereas augmented reality is taking a piece of that virtual world and layering it on top of the real world. So you can see here with this building. And then it's kind of become interchangeable, and not many people use AR or MR, or they just use one, but MR or mixed reality is kind of the next level of augmented reality, where you add a real world physics to the virtual objects. So you could put a ball on a virtual ball on a physical table, hit it, and when it gets to the end of the table, it would actually fall off and bounce on the ground. And then XR is extended reality, which kind of brings all of these terms together. And then one that I'm sure we've all been hearing everywhere is the metaverse. And basically the metaverse is the future of how these technologies could work together, as well along with AI and NFTs and everything along those lines. Basically just the next stage of the internet. I think a lot of people in the crypto space, NFT space, talk about Web3. I kind of use the two words interchangeably. But it's that future where everything that you interact with on the internet could have the capabilities to be in 3D, to be much more immersive, and have all new experiences. And then as well, I think if you're attending this presentation, you're probably interested in XR, so you don't necessarily have these misconceptions, but to go through them. A lot of people, especially in the early days of starting XpertVR over the past 6 years, talked about VR or XR being poor quality and causing motion sickness, or they're big clunky headsets, or that's only for games. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Lots of headsets are 8K plus resolution now. They're built with simulations and moderate the content to make sure there is no motion sickness, or at least reduce it to the lowest level possible at the moment. Lots of the headsets weigh almost nothing and don't need any wires or computers attached to them. They're very lightweight and easy to use. And then, as you can see here, the education market alone is worth $13 billion, or getting to $13 billion and continuing to grow right across the market. It's predicted to be worth over $1.5 trillion by 2030. So obviously a lot more than just gaming is happening in the VR and XR space. So to touch on that first key point that I highlighted at the start, why is VR an important e-learning tool? So PwC did this interesting study where they had people go through the virtual environments and people go into regular classroom environments. And they found that people were 4 times more focused in VR than they were in regular classroom lectures and presentations, even like this one. And I think that's pretty obvious. You're locked into the headset. Everything you see, hear, touch, and feel is virtual. So you're not getting any distractions. You're completely locked onto the content. Possibly, depending on the simulation, the professor can direct where you're trying to look and what you're trying to do. So it gets you really focused on the learning content. And to further compare, they found that people were able to go through 4 times faster than a regular classroom environment, and also faster than e-learning environments. This one I would say is kind of debatable. Definitely you can go through VR training and learning a lot faster than regular learning. But what we found is it also allows people 4 times more time to go back and improve on the areas where they might be struggling. So you can go through and learn everything, but now you have that extra time to get that additional practice in. It also showed that people were much more connected to the content emotionally. And this can be seen whenever you're interacting with avatars in a virtual environment compared to just watching a video, or even having like a mock scenario with one of your classmates or a coworker. Being able to have an avatar that looks like the person that you would be interacting with in the actual real world and responds like they do, just builds a much higher emotional connection. And we do a lot of firefighter training, and I'll show some videos in a second, but we've had firefighters where they're going into a burning building, and we had one firefighter in our virtual burning building. She went into the basement of a house, and there was 4 victims in the basement. And as a firefighter, you need yourself and a partner to rescue one person at a time when everyone's incapacitated and can't move. So she was trying to get her partner to come to rescue this person, noticed she was running low on air, and started kind of panicking because she's had such an emotional connection of like, I need to fill up my air, but I don't know what to do when rescuing this person. And she forgot that she was in the basement of this house and thought she was actually in a garage. And that made her start looking for the door to get out of the garage instead of the stairs to get out of the basement. She ended up running out of air, and other firefighters had to come in and rescue her. And it just shows that emotional connection that you can have when you're interacting with virtual avatars. And bringing this all together, PwC found that students came out 275% more confident after going through the virtual environment. So you can just see the impact that VR can have on education, or that it's already having in certain areas. And then second point, what type of VR should I use, or what types of VR are out there for education? And I like to look at it at kind of these 4 different types or different levels of VR. So I'll go through each of these now. The first one being virtual classroom platforms. So a lot of these, if you have a VR headset, or even most of them with a computer, you can go on for free. I actually need to take alt space off of here because they closed down, but all these other ones are still open. But most of them are for free. If you have like a lot of people going in, then they start charging a per person or per student fee. but lots of them are free up to 100+ people. And basically in here, they're pre-made environments where you're able to go in and interact with students, peers, coworkers in real time. And you don't all have to have VR headsets. You can go in with a computer and just have your video on, just like we are right now, and be able to interact that way, like you can see in the picture, but you can also interact as a 3D avatar. And in that 3D space, whether you're an avatar or you're just joining from your computer, you're able to bring up web browsers like you can see here, and all kinds of pictures, but then you can also bring in 3D models to interact with. I know Mountain Equipment Co-op, they were designing their backpacks inside of Spatial, which is this picture on the right, where you could bring in a virtual 3D model of a backpack, and then they could draw on it and play around with the design of the straps and all sorts of things, all in this virtual space while everyone's around the world. So opening up much better collaboration, and we've seen this running classes over the pandemic with multiple different schools. It allows you to keep that human connection while being virtual. Then that second level, again, a lot of these simulations can be free. Sometimes they go up to $300 per student or so, but still pretty reasonably available to schools. And so some of these are built as games, like Keep Talking Nobody Explodes might be one that you've played on the PS4, or I think it's available on the PS5 as well, or just as a PC game on Steam. But we've used this for training teams. So basically in this game, you go in and outside of the VR headset or outside of the computer, there's a team that has all the instructions on how to defuse a bomb. And then the person that's in the VR headset or on the computer has to defuse that bomb by pressing certain buttons and cutting certain wires. And you have to communicate and use leadership skills and team building skills to defuse that bomb together. So there's really interesting applications of games that are already out there. And then all the way over to these 3 other examples where there are so many simulations built for specific use cases, like looking at a person's anatomy, or the bottom left is one of our police training simulations for de-escalation. Body Swaps is a great company on soft skills in the business space. So there's all these applications that are already made and schools are starting to use to have this virtual learning available right away. And then the third level is zero code editors. So these usually are pretty simplistic because they need to be accessible by basically anyone to build simulations, but they can be used in VR headsets, on PC computers, or even on tablets sometimes. And basically you're able to go in and build out your own simulation without needing to code or have any really high level technology skills. And lots of these are used for soft skills. So you can see here in this picture, these simulations are built so you can pick an environment, drop in a bunch of avatars, and then select how a conversation tree would work. So basically you'd walk up to the avatar and you'd have 4 options of how you could greet that person. And then depending on how you greet them, they would respond a certain way. And then you would have 4 more options of how to respond to that. And you kind of go down this branch of a conversation tree to have the conversation. So it's a great way to really quickly build out learning simulations for soft skills if you have the knowledge of how to build those conversations. And again, pretty cost effective for a lot of schools that are now adopting it. And then lastly, kind of our bread and butter at XpertVR, we do have some products out there, but a lot of what we do is custom development. And this is kind of the highest level because you need a team of staff to use Unity or Unreal Engine to program these. But it allows you to have a completely customizable environment. So you can see here, this is one of our search and rescue simulations where we don't just build a simulation, we build this authoring tool so that a professor can choose where's the fire within the building, where are the victims, how big is the fire, those sorts of things. So it allows a professor or a school so much control over what type of simulation they want to build and what types of features they want in there. And what we're trying to do at XpertVR, and I'm hoping that other companies start to do, is how can we bring schools together and bring companies together to share this software so that more students have access to it and have access to a library instead of needing to get a custom simulation developed for each class. Maybe one school develops a firefighting course, another school develops a policing course, and the two schools can share those so that everyone has access to both. And there's so many amazing features for this of being able to connect to your learning management system, so data sent right back, or have certain accessibility features so that they're accessible to everyone and follow like AODA, which is Ontario's accessibility features, and those sorts of things. And then as well, being able to do like custom simulations, there's data collected, and this is being used in all kinds of different educational contexts. Here you can see eye tracking, and so this is like in a consumer behavior sense, but it's just kind of a good demo of how eye tracking works. I'll play the video again here. But basically, in a training sense, this could allow you to see, is somebody looking in the right areas when they're driving a large vehicle, or are they noticing the right things as a police officer when they walk into a room. And beyond just the eye tracking, there's all kinds of other biofeedback of just tracking their heart rate. Are they getting nervous, excited, or what are they kind of feeling to a degree when they're going into a simulation? Also being able to track things like what was the path they took through an environment, if they took the right steps as they went through. And all of this feedback allows a trainee to reflect and improve themselves without needing to have a conversation with a professor necessarily, or it allows a professor or a trainer to sit down, evaluate how somebody did, and then have a conversation afterwards, giving them tips. So it really speeds up that learning process and allows you to really reflect on kind of the gameplay of what you did, similar to a football team watching their game tapes after or before their next game. And then that last key takeaway to go through what's coming to VR education, or what's next. So there's a couple different things. I think the most prevalent, the one that's is already here basically, is standalone VR. So up until the past 3 years or so, 2-3 years, you needed to have a large PC, usually like $4,000, just to plug a VR headset into so that it would run. And now a lot of headsets are moving toward not needing those computers or any extra equipment. So like you can see there with the Vive Focus 3, or you've probably seen the Quest 2, or maybe the Pico. These headsets, all they are is a headset and 2 controllers, and some of them don't even need controllers because they have hand tracking. So allowing it just to be that much easier to get VR into the classroom, a much lower price point, very portable. We have different schools that are mailing these out to students that are living remotely across Canada so that they can all join those classrooms together. The only problem with these are that they are limited power, both in a battery. You can usually only run 2 to 4 hours with the headset, as well as to have a very realistic and complex simulation becomes complicated because you're basically running it off of a cell phone processor within the headset. But as you can see, what I was saying before, $4,000 for the computer plus the headset at around $1,000, $5,000 compared to $400 is a steep decrease and allows a lot more schools to be adopting this technology. Then looking further into the future and kind of what's in the R&D pipeline, it really comes down to all of the different senses. So obviously right now we kind of have your eyes covered and your auditory hearing covered with the virtual reality technology and headphones that are out there today. But looking at other ways of tracking data, or of giving more sensation and more senses in the virtual space, there's all kinds of accessories coming out. So you can see here, there's a whole plethora of VR gloves coming out that allow you to just interact like you normally would. So you don't need any controllers. You just jump into the space and you're able to move around and pick up objects just with your regular hands like you regularly would. So allowing it to be adopted a lot easier, as well as for you to do more complex tasks in a learning environment. Then there's VR suits. These can be great when you need to have full motion capabilities in a VR simulation. So if you need to see your legs moving, and I don't know why soccer comes to mind. If you're playing soccer, obviously you need to be able to kick the ball. But in all kinds of training senses, body language can be very important. Like we do a lot of police officer training, making sure that you're having the right body language, even if that's not really a lot of movement of your body, but being able to track what you are doing and how you're posing within a simulation can be very helpful to make sure that you're doing the right things, as well as some of these simulations or some of these accessories for bodysuits in simulations. They allow you to do motion capture and biometrics so that you can play back exactly the motion that you did in the virtual space, as well as track certain things like heart rate and galvanic skin response and things along those lines that can tell researchers and can tell trainers your confidence levels and all sorts of different things to a certain degree. And on that same side of things, there's EEG and galvanic skin response, GSR, machines that allow you to track brain waves and other emotion activity that can sometimes act as a second controller. That's really in the research phases right now, but not needing to use anything and basically just using your mind to control the simulation, all the way up to just being able to monitor your emotions as you're going through the sim. And then lastly, probably the farthest off and kind of in the research R&D phase is taste and smell, and I guess temperature as well, but temperature is basically there. But basically there's different accessories that for smell you just attach onto your headset, and they basically have like vape cartridges in them that just like different smells that you would put into a vape that go into this device and allow you to produce different smells as you're going through a simulation. It's very early on, but there are 2 companies kind of making these and starting to release them to the public, and you could see how this could be very interesting in the future for all kinds of different applications. I think the first area adopting it is for consumer behavior research and just research in general, when you can have people for example, we've had studies where we have people sitting in a winery versus sitting on a beach versus sitting at a cottage, and we can have the smells of those environments happen as you're drinking a glass of wine, and that can tell consumer behaviors of like what kind of smells influence your taste in wine or make wine taste different. And then talking about tastes, there's actually a researcher in Buffalo, and he's developed a glass that has electrodes around the brim of the glass, and as you drink, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know exactly how it works, but basically the electrodes do very minor shocks, as I understand it, to your tongue and to your mouth that change your taste buds, and so that you can be drinking a glass of water, but they can make it taste like a glass of wine. So very interesting where that research is. It's very early on, but definitely could see how eventually we could have all senses available in virtual reality, just making it that much more immersive and allowing for a fully immersive education experience. And then we've all heard about ChatGPT over the past few years here. I'll just pause this for a second. So there's a lot of interesting tools coming out that are enhancing the training and education space with ChatGPT and other AI models. And this one's actually from 2 or a year and a half, 2 years ago. So even before everything has blown up over the past 6 months or so with AI, and we've been working with ChatGPT for 8 months or so now to bring it to into our avatars. But basically, this technology allows for a virtual world that has AI avatars that you can walk up to and have conversations, so that you can have a full city where you're able to interact. Like I keep going back to police because we do a lot of police training, but imagine having a full city where you're able to just drive around and there's an AI that's committing a crime, and you go and arrest them, and you're able to have a full conversation with them. You're able to interview all the witnesses around there, or you just see somebody suspicious and you're able to go up and talk to them and have a conversation, and allows you to train for all the different scenarios you may run into and the different types of people that you may run into, without needing to have just your coworkers or other peers pretending to walk around and have a conversation and pretend to be a character. It builds that higher emotional connection that we were talking about earlier. So hopefully you can hear the sound. Give me a thumbs up if you can, but I'll just play this video so you can kind of see an example. Yeah. No, I can't hear it. Well, you can kind of see the captions there.
We cannot hear the voice, but that's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll just play that piece there. Hopefully you could read the captions a little bit there, but basically, yeah, like I was saying, this is a city where the developer here is just walking up to these avatars and having a conversation. Obviously, the avatars could get a lot more realistic. This is kind of just like a test environment for the AI. And you could see there, I don't know if you saw his answer of where do you work? I work at the city hall. It's a government building in the center of town. So isn't as natural as a real conversation would be, but you can see where AI was. This was a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's definitely improved since then, and it's only going to keep improving. So allowing you to have these types of one player experiences or even multiplayer, but especially if you're just studying at home and want to practice your soft skills, being able to go in and go into really any type of scenario is soon going to be possible where you can practice your soft skills, whether it be here and just walking down the street as a regular person or as a police officer, or we've even seen a party type simulation where if you have social anxiety, you can walk into this apartment and walk up to all the different avatars and strike up a conversation and practice those skills so that hopefully
Sorry about that. I think he might just be having some problems with his internet. Hopefully he'll be able to join us again quickly. You're just on mute there.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The internet cut out quickly, but glad it came back quick and just near the end of the presentation here, and then happy to answer any questions. All right, did you hear the end of the last slide with AI and then I switched to this slide, or did it cut out before that?
It was just before that, yeah.
Just before. Okay, perfect. So yeah, like we're talking about, I have a big passion about blockchain, NFTs, and the crypto space. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster the past few years, and especially the past year. I was in the cryptocurrency space back in 2017, so I've seen a couple ups and downs, and I'm still confident that it will be useful technology moving forward, especially with a lot of the things that we're seeing in VR, XR, and especially with AI at the moment. But wanted to highlight a couple interesting use cases. So Duke University is partnered with Coursera, and basically if you get a course on Coursera or some specific courses, you get an NFT, and that NFT represents that course both on Coursera and at Duke University. So an interesting way that they've partnered to share their courses, and an interesting way now that you can show employers that NFT to show that you got that, and makes it so that you can't fake the course credits that you got. And MIT was playing around with diplomas over the pandemic based on NFTs, just to show that there's no way to edit that paper. Obviously, right now, if you were to just get your transcript, there are ways to Photoshop that and to present it. Obviously, employers could contact the school, but that could take a lot of time. So having an NFT that shows that this was given to you and it hasn't exchanged hands and hasn't been tampered with at all, just proves that you really got those courses. YouTube was doing some playing around with the space as well for some of their courses on the YouTube education side of things. And then even the Ontario Public School Board Association, there was a couple classes that were being run over the pandemic, and I think still being run, where they were using cryptocurrency as a reward for students to learn about economics as well. So there were students, I think in grade 4, grade 5, that throughout the week, throughout the month, they would get awarded Banano was the cryptocurrency. So they would get awarded a certain amount of Banano depending if they performed well on tests, if they were interacting with students in a good way, if they were helping clean up at the end of the day, all those sorts of good behavior type things and performance-based things. And then at the end of each week or the end of each month, they were able to cash in those bananas for a pizza party or for different rewards, whether that be extra reading time or whatever types of awards they were interested in, or rewards, sorry, that they were interested in. So just an interesting way that different schools are now looking at this technology and starting to integrate it. And to bring all of that together, I have this slide, and it's kind of a funny graphic that I'll go through here of kind of where I see the future of education going and what we like to talk about at XpertVR. So imagine this is me at the start of my university career, much shorter hair. I went into business, but let's say I'd decided to go into emergency services. So here I am, a student. I've gone into emergency services. We are 5 years, 10 years down the road, and I get sent a VR headset before my first day. And it comes loaded with all like kind of my basic course material for the emergency services program that I'm in. And on the first day of orientation week, I go into my headset and there's this virtual campus that has all kinds of amazing activities and events that wouldn't be possible in the real world. Like, I don't know, maybe the mascot of this university is a dragon. So you're able to ride the dragon and fight knights on this dragon. Random example I came up with on the spot there, but all kinds of different events and things to get to know the community of people that live around the world and are joining this university. And then once you have some fun, you get to the end of a week and you walk into the bookstore. And in the bookstore, there's all kinds of different hats. And these hats represent the textbooks and the content that you're going to be using in your virtual classroom or even in the real world when you go onto the real campus. And so I'm in emergency services. I walk over to this police cap, and that is a 3D model that I can now wear in the virtual world, but it's represented by an NFT that also now gives me access to all of the different content that I need to succeed in the courses that I'm in that semester. And then it also works to track your eyes to make sure that you are the student you say you are, and you're not having somebody fake your exams or do your exams for you, as well as maybe gives you access to certain tools in augmented reality. So giving benefits to the school as well as giving benefits to you. And maybe here you are, or here I am much later on. I'm in my second year or third year of university. I've let my hair grow out, but I haven't really done much. I've been going to my classes, I'm passing classes, but I'm not doing too much. And I decided it's time to get involved with school. I only got a year or two left. Let's get involved. And in doing so, maybe I join a varsity sports team and the movie club or film club on campus. So now I get an NFT of those 3D glasses that are representative, so that moving forward in life, I can show off that I was part of the film club on campus. I get this jacket that is like my varsity jacket. Maybe you get a physical one in the real world, but you get this digital one as well, so you can show off in the metaverse or in the virtual world that you were on the varsity team at your school. And then you graduate, you get your virtual graduation cap that, like I was saying with MIT or Duke University there, you have all of your credentials attached to this graduation cap that allows you to show employers that you have a verified NFT, that you went to school at this school from X time to X time, and you passed these courses with these grades. Basically, all the information that would have been collected on you as you're going through university is accessible here, and you have full control of who you share that with and who has access to it. And now I've graduated and I'm doing well in university or in the real world, sorry. But I decide I've leveled up and I have my golden jacket, and I've leveled up as a police officer and being given certain NFTs as I'm being promoted in the police services, and maybe one of those is a golden jacket for whatever reason. And now I've leveled up pretty high, and I've decided I want to switch careers. Now I can go back to school or go back and get a different NFT that represents something else to get business skills. And now you get this virtual suit that represents the skills that you've gained as a business student. And now I'm much older and able to enter in as a CEO of a company. And so kind of a funny example maybe, and some funny avatars there, but hopefully you can kind of see how these different technologies are coming together. I didn't necessarily talk about VR or AI too much in those examples, but you can see how those would be the content and the classes that you're going through. And then the NFTs and the blockchain side of things kind of bring everything together, all within this metaverse or Web3 type space that we're heading towards. So with that, hopefully there was some interesting nuggets that you were able to pull out of there, and maybe you have some questions. Be happy to answer any of the questions right now, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or through email, evan@expertvr.com, or even just check out our website. You can see some of the other work that we're up to and connect through there as well.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for very interesting presentations. So yeah, let's begin the first questions. Someone is saying he's asking about the NFT things that you said. This is hilarious and sad at the same time, needing an NFT to prove that you graduated. So basically, this is the translations that if I want to say this. Maybe this is a misunderstanding, because NFT is kind of giving a reward to somebody to, for example, they solve the questions, right? And they are giving a reward, for example, $10 or $5. It's not a degree, it's nothing, but you can put more explanation if you want, Evan. You can jump.
Yeah, so not looking at it as a reward, and this is maybe this is where the confusion is. Like, I'm not looking at it, and where I'm looking at the future and some of the NFTs that I've interacted with, you're not paying extra for this NFT, and it's not some like funny monkey picture or something like you've seen with like the Bored Ape Yacht Club or things like that. It's something that Duke University or MIT or whatever, or York University or wherever you're going, when you graduate, you would get your regular diploma, your piece of paper, but then you would also get this NFT, which is represented by the York University logo, or could be represented by the CN Tower in Toronto, that is completely free and just added into your digital wallet, so that in the future, I see a future where you're going to an employer and they're asking for your degree. What degree do you have? And there's so many people today that might lie on a resume. I've definitely heard of people that are photoshopping a diploma or doing different things like that. And with an NFT that is coming from York University, an employer can see that that came from York University. It is owned by me, Evan Sitler Bates, and presenting the diploma that I got, and make sure that there is no lying, no editing or anything that's happened in presenting that you have that diploma. So yeah, not something that you're paying any money for. Maybe there could be a reward attached to it. Like, all those sorts of things are possible, but looking at it as a free thing that just allows you to have that additional security to show that you have gotten your diploma. Hopefully that kind of helps answer it. But I can see how looking at the NFT world over the past year can look like it is a pretty funny or possibly sad space to be in.
Okay, yeah. So the next question is, hi, Evan. Thank you for your amazing presentation. How do you ensure that the VR experiences you develop for education are accessible and inclusive to a diverse range of learners, considering factors such as physical disabilities or learning differences? What specific challenges have you encountered in this regard?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So the first thing that we do at XpertVR is for 95, 99% of the simulations we develop, we make them for VR, but we also make them for PC use. So a lot of people that have a disability, they'll have certain applications and software on their computer to make sure that whatever they're doing works for their disability. So making it that way allows you to still use all of those tools, obviously not as immersive. So something that we've been working on with some government departments as well as some universities and colleges is VR specific accessibility tools. So in a lot of our simulations now, as we've continuing to develop these tools, you're able to go into the settings menu and switch all kinds of things like what is the layout of the buttons on your controllers, and maybe you can only use one controller, so you can switch everything over to that one controller so everything works there. Different color settings, so if you're colorblind, there's ways to turn on settings so that it really highlights all the different objects and follows the standards that allow you to see those objects even if you are colorblind, as well as having all kinds of audio settings, so you can, like in any really video game or lots of video games, you can change variations between your master audio, the narration audio, the background sound, etc. So all kinds of like tools like that we're starting to incorporate, as well as we move forward and spread this out to more schools. Something that we're really trying to do as well is look at accessories that are out there. So right now, usually it's you got your computer or you got your headset with two controllers, but there are different accessories that take away the controllers and allow for both more immersive experiences as well as for those with different disabilities or different accessibility needs could use those controllers or those accessories better than the regular VR controllers. So it's a wide range of things that we're doing. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, so another question is from an anonymous attendee. Is 3D assets are one of the main challenges of the VR developments, since VR needs to be optimized. So where do you get the 3D assets for creating your virtual environment? Do you create them from scratch by your 3D artists or 3D modeler?
Yeah, so we use a big range of different applications depending on what we need to do. So definitely what we do most of the time is from scratch. We have a team of 4 3D modelers with us that are able to model everything within Blender, and then we bring it into Unity, and that allows us full control over the optimization and all the materials and everything for those 3D models. But then beyond that, we also do go to websites like TurboSquid or the Unity Asset Store and places like that, and we'll buy models. Usually when we do that, we still have to optimize them ourselves. So then we buy those, our 3D modelers are able to take them into Blender and make certain edits to fully optimize them. And then something that's on the other side of the scale, because it's not at all optimized, but that we're trying to test out for larger scale applications, is either LiDAR scanning or photogrammetry. So being able to go into a space with either a camera or a 3D LiDAR scanner, you're able to scan that full environment or sometimes individual objects and bring those into the virtual space. Like I said, they're usually very unoptimized. So there's a lot of steps for our 3D modeling team to fully get those prepared. But yeah, we use a full range of options, but for the most part, it is starting from scratch and fully 3D modeling them with photos to reference. Obviously, we're not just modeling ideas off the top of our head.
Okay, so the next question is, what is the suggested duration for one can use VR device, and will it increase later in future?
Yeah, I think everyone we talk to, like from just regular users up to like the military that's using them on a regular basis, like 15 to 20 minutes, maybe up to half an hour is kind of what a lot of people recommend, especially for learning experiences. It really comes down to the person. Some people, they'll jump into VR, or they've had a VR experience in the past where they went on like a roller coaster or something, and they're like, I can only handle VR for a minute or less. Other people, myself included, can go as long as you want. I did a 24-hour live stream for Sick Kids Hospital back in November where I was in VR. So like, doesn't bother me at all being in VR for 24 hours. So it is a big range. I think on our team, we call it getting your VR legs. So it's something that you do have to take the time to play a lot of VR and go through a lot of VR experiences to fully be able to do like a 24-hour stretch or multiple hour stretch. But for most people, it's that like 15 to 20 minutes. There's a lot of research being done. I was actually just at the University of Waterloo yesterday talking with one of their head researchers in the VR space. Michael, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head right now. But Michael is doing research into motion sickness and how can we decrease that, what causes it, why do certain people respond to it differently. So there's a lot of research into devices, how to optimize content. But it really comes down to the content side of things, where a lot of people get motion sickness when they're on a roller coaster or they're in a moving vehicle in virtual reality. Whereas if you make sure that they're standing in one spot and instead of moving around with a joystick like you normally would in a video game where you push the joystick forward and you automatically start moving forward, using like teleportation, or in our search and rescue simulation, we have a special crawling mechanism. So it's like you're pulling yourself along the ground, kind of like you're crawling. So using different locomotion settings allows you to decrease that motion sickness side of things, which increases the amount of time you can be in VR.
Okay, we have 3 more questions. Can VR development be somehow linked to cell phone? In developing countries, oftentimes cell phones are the only reason because of the price, right? Cheap technology available for the research being currently considered, even $400 per set is an excessive cost, right? The idea of VR is really appealing, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great point, and it's something that I think like we saw the first iPhone back in the early 2000s, and we're with the Vision Pro being announced from Apple. I kind of look at that as kind of like the iPhone 1 moment kind of thing, and over the next 3-4 years, it will really come down in price. It's like $3,500 US and almost $5,000 Canadian right now, or when it comes out in January. So yeah, it's going to bring prices down as new versions come out. Quest with Meta, they're going to continue bringing prices down. So hopefully we do get to that point where anybody can buy a VR headset. But for the time being, unfortunately, you can't do full-on VR development or especially VR experiences on a cell phone. The headsets out there today are using cell phone processors, but they're very specific and built to work with a VR headset instead of doing everything that your phone would do. That said, there's kind of 2 levels of experiences that you can do and develop on your phone. Number one, and the easiest and definitely the best application, is 360 or 180 videos. So being able to have a camera that you're able to shoot a full 360 or even a panorama type shot with your phone, then allows you to hold up your phone to your eyes and be in that experience, or have like a Google Cardboard on and have it right over top your eyes so you can be in that experience. Or the next level up is those collaborative spaces that I was showing at like level 1 on those different types of VR, where you're able to go into a virtual space on like Rec Room or Spatial or VR chat, those different options there. A lot of those do work on phones, and some of them allow you to build from your phone. So unfortunately, not amazing just yet, but there are options.
Okay, so wonderful. So another question is from Eva. He's or she is asking that in one of my projects, Ali is part of it. We would like to incorporate a serious game on flooding. frcgame.com is the website, probably that it's mentioned. While in reality mapping and VR, how we would use VR likely is that when there is a flood scenario, the participants can use VR as a headset or web-based browser to see how high the flood is on the buildings in their municipality. You mentioned combining VR with LiDAR technology. Is that the direction that we would likely to take?
I would say probably not like LiDAR unless there's like a specific building. I would say like LiDAR would be interesting if, for example, you wanted to go and scan like the CN Tower or like a big landmark in a city. obviously CN Tower is a little high to do fully with LiDAR unless you get permission to use drones and everything. But using that as an example, if you wanted to use that and then anybody in Toronto could see what is the flood level like on the CN Tower compared to a flood somewhere else in the world, that could be interesting. For kind of the application you're talking about, I would more aim towards using like the Quest 2 or the Quest Pro with its pass-through mode, where instead of being in a fully virtual space, you can see your real world around you. You can be sitting in your room or your office, wherever you are, and using augmented reality, have water come out of the ground and go up to the level of that flood. And that way it's very, I think, very impactful for the person viewing that, because they're seeing their real world, where they live, and they're seeing the water rise up of the floor. So really not needing too much like virtual assets then either. You just need to have the virtual water and the shader that's on that water to make it look realistic. But yeah, using the Quest 2, they have black and white pass through so that you can see the real world in black and white. The Quest Pro, obviously a little more expensive, allows you the color pass through. And then the Quest 3 will be coming out in fall, which should be, I'm guessing it will probably be around $700 or so price tag, and it will have full color pass through as well. So cheaper than the Pro, a little more expensive than the 2. So yeah, that's probably the direction that I would go. Send me an email though if you have any other like questions on that, because we've looked into a couple flooding experiences in the past.
Okay, so the last probably question, which we have here is, do you think for bringing our human feeling, like smelling or tasting in VR, can we put a chip in humans' brain in new future?
Sorry, could
again, like the question is similar to human feeling, like smelling or tasting. Can we put a chip in human brain in future for? Yeah.
Right, like something like Neuralink or something along those lines. I would think, and yeah, like I think it's definitely coming down the pipeline. I think the FA or the whatever the government department is that approves medical studies for brain technology like that, I think they just approved some testing with the Neuralink. So yeah, I definitely think it's coming. If you watch Black Mirror, there's a great episode about basically this little, you got a chip in your brain and then you just put this little device on your neck and now you're in the virtual world. So I definitely think those types of technologies are coming. I wouldn't want to be the first tester of them, but I think that the first use cases for those types of technology will be for people that are paraplegic or don't have certain disabilities that allow them to, or don't allow them to, enjoy all of life's pleasures. And so giving that ability to those people, I'm sure they would be interested in testing it out depending on the severity of their disability. And if we can see how much that improves those people's lives, looking out 20, 50 years down the road, I could see how it could be something that everybody will have access to. We just need to make sure there's a lot of safeguards there, because that could be very used in a lot of bad ways, obviously.
Thank you very much for this excellent talk. I must leave for another meeting now. I will be in touch. Okay, so this is what's comments. Okay, thank you very much. I think we had enough time to discuss about all the things for today's sessions. So may Dr. Ali may also come, and then we can finish the talk. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you for having me. No, that's great.
Yes, thank you very much. It was very interesting conversation and presentation. We appreciate that. I'm sure all of the participants enjoyed that. This session has been recorded, and we will post the recording with, of course, permission from Evan online for others who were not able to attend. And also, we continue this speaker series with another interesting topic related to how best we can use VR in areas that have difficulty accessing VR technology. And with that, we are going to conclude this this presentation here. But I'm sure there were some questions. If you still have, as Ivan said, he's available to take your questions, and please feel free to reach out to him. I will definitely reach out to you because I had some questions that I didn't have time to ask. And thank you again for all your work.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, thank you again for having me. And yeah, definitely feel free to reach out. Again, it's evan@expertvr.com, or my LinkedIn is just Evan Sitler Bates. Happy to talk either of those places.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Francesco and Dr. Ahmad, for moderating and running the background work on this.